Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. This is a little bit unusual, but it's not something that's that unusual in terms of what happens with fishing reels. And I actually got a request in for this, so I thought I would answer the request in a video to help others along the way. We had a reel that had the other side on it, but the real concern from the person was, I have a spool that's stuck. How do I free it up? And most of the time, the issue on this is that the spool gear or the pinion gear has rusted to the shaft of the spool. And if you try to tear it out, you're going to break the internal pieces and parts. And there is an easy way. There is a way to do it, and that's what I'm going to show you during this exercise. So if you have this problem, stay tuned. You'll see how to solve it. And if you don't have this problem, you may encounter it in the future. And so this might just be a good learning experience for you, as it is for me. I want to get a parts tray to start. I'm just going to use the bottom of a fast food container. And I've got a little bit of a jump on this one because of the reel itself. But the first thing you want to do is remove the free spool lever and screw. What we're going to do is we're going to take all the external pieces off and we're going to push everything through, and then we'll be able to come back and to resolve the issue with that frozen spool. So let's take assume that we just took the lever off, and we did that by removing the screw. Now we're going to remove the set screw for the handle. And as we do this, I want to pause and thank our first responders, our essential personnel, all of our frontline heroes that are helping to keep us safe during this pandemic, whether you're EMT, fire, police, you're working in the food supply chains, in the medical fields, including those that are helping to distribute the vaccinations. Thank you all for what you do. Without you, we would be in far, far worse shape. All right, we're going to take the handle off, then we're going to remove that collar. Then we have 4 bridge screws. We want to take those out. Notice when you take the bridge screws out that, unlike whoever repaired this reel the last time, that screw doesn't belong there. There's 2 different screws. There's well, that one's wrong too. Let me show you the right ones. They put them in the reverse order. That's not affecting why this spool does not come out. Okay, there's a partially threaded screw. That partially threaded screw belongs on the top of the bridge assembly where the springs are, and those fully threaded screws go below. This one also has a broken anti-reverse dog. I suspect what happened here was that whoever owned this reel tried to backpedal and do some other things to get the spool free, and when they did, they broke probably pushed the spring out or just kind of sheared it off. All right, so we've taken every piece out now. We have our side plate assembly with no screws, and now you'll see that this starts to loosen up a little bit, but we're not done yet. You have to push this through and then push the bridge through. These are going to kind of be pivot points here. So push the top through, push the bottom through, and then you're going to see what's going on inside with this reel. Now, you need to know how to rebuild the reel, because what's happening here is everything is coming off of the side plate, right? So we'll show you that as part 2 to this. So the eccentric and its spring have come loose because we had the free spool mechanism was out of there. We have the culprit here. We're going to take the jack and the yoke off, and then we're going to pull the bridge assembly out. Our dog came out with that. So somewhere in here is probably a broken spring that controls the anti-reverse dog. And we can see that the whole thing is rusted. That's what's caused the problem. And this reel is pretty much unrepairable. I think what's happened here is we have a rusted gear that's rusted to the pinion. So for the sake of the conversation, that one's not very good. And then we have what's happened here. The reason why that was turning in unison is this spool gear was rusted onto the shaft of the spool. So you want to see if you can pull it off first and foremost. Now, there's a groove in this, and that groove sits on the shoulders of the spool here, like this. And what happens is it's just steel. Rust, dirt, debris, or lack of lubrication will cause that thing to rust in there. You can't take a pliers, if you know that you have this broken, you can't take a pliers like this and turn it, right, to try and get it free, because that groove is going to stop. There's a square side on each of the faces of that. There's a square shoulder that this sits on, and you can just see by its nature, if you try to wrench it, it's not going anywhere. You're going to break the tops off of this. It has to be pulled directly out. Now, if it's stuck, the first thing you want to do is you want to go get a penetrating oil. In this case, it's just a local hardware store brand. Give it a good squirt down. Let it sit. Go get a cup of coffee or something. Come back and try to work it off that way. Use hand strength first. Okay, see if you can pull it off that way. If that's not working, go to a pad that might give you a little bit better grip. This is a kitchen scrubby pad. You can also use steel wool if you like. Oops, steel wool. And maybe get a better grip of it this way, right? If that still doesn't work, go ahead and really bundle it up. That's why I have the second one here. Bundle it up a second time. Now go use a pliers, but be very careful, because anything you're doing, I mean, obviously it just fell out with that beam. You don't want to scar the teeth on this gear, because if you scar it, then it's got to be replaceable, and it's very easy to scar these teeth by having a direct metal on metal contact. So do your best to be able to work it. If you do need to use some mechanical assist, make sure you have that really packed. And when you have it really packed, just gently rock it up and forth, back and forth. Do not grip hard on this. Do not try to wrench in any kind of a pattern to do that. Okay, so what if that doesn't work? What if you really on there tight? Well, the last thing you want to do then is you want to go get a torch, a plumber's torch. You want to apply heat. Okay, so get a plumber's torch and just a quick little light of the torch. Now this is a plastic spool, so don't come anywhere near the plastic, but just a little bit of torch and flame. Give it maybe 15 seconds. And with that penetrating oil in there, and with the heat, these two pieces, the spool shaft and the collar gear or the pinion gear, will either melt away the rust in there to allow it to free, or these are going to expand at different rates. That's the whole idea behind heat. One of these will expand, probably this gear will expand faster than that one, and that'll help break the problem as well. Okay, so what happens when you go back to reinstall then? Well, what you want to do is you want to get your eccentric gear and reinstall that. The eccentric gear reinstalls by taking the long spring, placing that in the case, rotating the top of this around. I don't have that lever gear with me, unfortunately. Let's just pretend that I do, but I'm just going to grab it with the pliers for now just to show you. You need to get it to this side here so that you can push it in completely. Push it in like that. You'll see that you now have a raised side here where you can put the lever gear on. And this is a balance point. This is neither extended or contracted. It's right in the middle there. Just seek that. If you do use the pliers, do what I did. Just use a very light touch to make that rotate. Okay, next up then, because you would or you wouldn't know where that is, the next thing up is the two springs that hold the yoke. You will have used steel wool or some other type of cleaner to make sure that you get all of the old rust and dirt debris, which you can see an awful lot of here. Get that all cleaned off of there and grease that. Grease the gear. Make sure that the inside of this gets cleaned. Use a Q-tip or something else to really get in there. Use that penetrating oil. Make sure any of the old dirt and debris comes out of there. And then hook that onto your yoke. Get your yoke assembly over the bearing. And press down on that bearing. And reinstall the jack. So essentially, that's what you pushed out of this when you took all of the screws out. And then you had your bridge. And unfortunately, I don't have the spring for that anti-reverse dog, so we'll have to play along with that. Your bridge is going to be installed from the bottom. You're going to rotate that on a kind of a counterclockwise basis. You'll take a fully threaded screw in the bottom hole. Going to add your dog. The dog adds like this, which creates a cavity right here in the sidewall. That's where the small coil spring goes, and unfortunately I don't have that right now. But just press it in with your hand, then complete the rotation of your bridge. Make sure that gear gets through the bridge, and then tighten up on that screw there, and you've restored the reel, freeing up the pinion gear and taking care to make sure that it's going to be operational again. So let's just tighten this up. Generally, if I put 2 screws in, I think we'll be able. The partially threaded screw goes up top. And then let's just show you that it'll turn. And that's what you really want to do now. And because we're free of this, when you go ahead and take a wire brush, you can use steel wool, you can use a wire brush, that penetrating oil, make sure you give it a good cleaning to get all that old rust off of there. Do your best to make sure that it is as clean as possible. Don't be afraid to do this with the penetrating oil several times. Make sure that you finish it with something like this steel wool, but get all the old stuff off of there. And once you do, you can apply a grease to that and then reinstall this in your reel, and you have solved the problem of the sticking spool. So I hope that's helpful. If it is, and if you like this kind of stuff, I ask you to subscribe to my channel. Your subscriptions will help me, and I can help you because I post frequently, and I post all types of fishing reel repairs and designs and the like. So you should be able to learn from this, and maybe it'll help you fix one of the reels you own. If you have a question on this reel or any reel in particular, and this was a viewer's question on how to free a stuck spool, then leave them in the comment section. I do try to respond to them, and if it's something that I have in the shop that I can show by video as opposed to by text, I will certainly do that. Leave that in the comment section. If you like the video, please like it. And finally, if you have a reel that needs to be repaired, well, if you contact me on the email address on the business card that follows, well, I repair fishing reels as well, and I will be happy to provide you with that repair information. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.